Hello, you guys. Welcome back to the Sweat Simple podcast. Before we dive in to today's episode, I wanted to give a shout out to one of you guys who left a review, Kaylee Ann K. I just discovered these reviews the other day, and these reviews seriously help the podcast grow so much. So I really just wanted to thank you for leaving such a kind review. I so appreciate you being in this community. Please shoot me a DM on Instagram. I want to send you a free workout program, but just thank you so much for being a part of this community. Now it's time to dive in to what we're talking about today. So if you are listening in real time, it is middle April of 2024, which means that we are almost 4 months into the year. A full quarter of the year has already gone by. What have you accomplished? I ask because a lot of the times we set these big, lofty goals at the start of the year. We're like super pumped about them. We have a lot of hope because let's be honest, especially at the start of the year, it is fun and easy to plan. Like we're pumped to establish these goals, to think about like how much we're going to commit to certain things. Like it's fun if you're a type A person like me to get your planner out, to write in like all these goals, to get your habit tracker all set up. It is fun to plan. It's another thing though to actually follow through. And oftentimes we realize 8 months into the year that we haven't actually really made any progress towards our goals. We're still exactly where we started the year. And let's be honest, like that can be really frustrating. It is annoying. It is frustrating to constantly be stuck in the same cycle of setting the same goal year after year, quarter after quarter, and never actually making any progress towards them. Or maybe you make like a tiny bit of progress, but you basically feel like you're in this never-ending cycle of setting the same goal, and then every single year on January 1st, you are right back where you started, setting that same goal again. That is like so demotivating. And after a certain point, it almost seems like, what's the point of setting this goal? Because I've set this goal like 5 times before and I haven't made any sort of progress towards it. So why would this time be any different? You start to have a lot of self-doubt. You start to question if you're even capable of change, if you're even capable of achieving these goals. So I want this time to be different because it's often not that you didn't want the goal bad enough. Like you set these goals for a reason. They're important to you. But it's just likely that as life gets busy, you forget to prioritize these goals. You never actually went about setting up the habits and the routines that you needed in order to actually reach your goals. So instead of waiting until 8 months in or even later, we're going to reassess your goals now. At the 4-month mark, when there is still plenty of time to be making progress towards your goals. Instead of only doing the fun planning part, over the course of this podcast, I'm going to make sure that you actually follow through. The fun planning part is going to be a part of this, but we're going to do so in a way so that you're actually going to make progress towards your goals this time around, because it's not enough to just plan. We have to take action. We have to start following through. So first things first, where are you at with your goals for the year? I want you to assess each one individually. Now, for the sake of this podcast, I'm going to have you focus on your fitness related goals, but of course, you can have goals in every single area. So take some time to really sit and think about this. What were your goals at the start of the year and where are you at with them? Have you made any progress? Have you made a little bit of progress? What was like that big goal at the start of the year? Maybe it was to lose weight, to go to the gym, to stop getting so much takeout. Whatever it was, what does your progress towards that goal look like? If you're happy with your progress and like you've been crushing it, like you set that goal to go to the gym 3 times a week and you have gone to the gym 3 times a week, like almost every single week since the start of the year, that is amazing. That's a really good indicator that what you're doing is working. So I want you to keep on keeping on. Like if you're making progress towards your goals and you're making a lot of progress towards your goals, that's a good indicator that you're on the right path. I don't want you changing anything. I want you to just keep doing. What you're doing is working. Success happens in the boring. I want you to just keep focusing on what you're already doing and keep going. I feel like sometimes we're tempted to make these big changes when what we're already doing is working, because we're like, well, it's working, but now I'm ready to like do more things. We don't always need to do more things. If something is working, it's working for a reason. Just stay consistent with what's already working. Now, I bet a lot of you though might be feeling stuck. Maybe you really haven't made any progress at all, or maybe you haven't made nearly as much progress as you wanted to. Instead of being upset at yourself, because that's often our first reaction, we start to get down on ourselves for the first 4 months of the year not looking the way that we wanted them to. I want you to see this as a positive or an opportunity, because now you know that what you've been doing the first quarter of the year isn't working. And if you're serious about reaching whatever this big goal is, that means it's time to make adjustments. And before you tell me, no, my plan is good, I just need to try a little bit harder, or I just need more motivation, or once work slows down, then I'm gonna have all this time and I'll be able to like really make progress towards my goals. Stop with those when and if statements. Stop with thinking that what you're currently doing is working. Because let's be honest, your day-to-day life is not changing that much in the next 30 days. Probably not even in the next 6 months. Your motivation isn't going to magically increase overnight if it hasn't struck yet. Your day-to-day life is not changing, which means it's time to change your approach. Because guess what? Nothing changes if nothing changes. If you approach these next 4 months exactly how you approach the first 4, nothing's going to change, period. You're not going to be any closer to your goals. There is a reason that you haven't seen success and you haven't made progress towards your goals doing what you're currently doing. So instead of staying stuck in that, instead of thinking that if you just grit through, if you just find more time, stop doing that. That more time isn't coming. It's time to instead change your approach and recognize that what you're doing to date, even though you had the best of intentions, that doesn't work for you, that doesn't work for your lifestyle, and it's time to try something different. So let's get specific. Look back at these last few months. What went really well? What actually helped you reach your goals? What are the things that you're really proud of? Now, on the flip side, where is there area for opportunity? What are the things that made it harder for you to reach your goals? Did you have no accountability and maybe you need to hire a coach like myself to help you finally take action? Are you setting unrealistic goals for yourself and then when you can't stick to those, you're throwing in the towel? Are you only focusing on counting calories, but you're constantly stressed and falling prey to mindless snacking? Basically, I want you to assess if you're focusing on the right things to actually hit your goals. Or are you just focusing on what you've heard you need, and maybe that's not the best course for you? It's time to really dive into why you're struggling to be successful and what you need to change to see more results moving forward. All right, have you identified what's not working? Perfect, we've got that. I want you to write that down somewhere, or just like keep it in your mind moving forward, because we're going to need to adjust that. If it's not working, we got to change it. We can't keep doing the same thing, hoping for a different result. That's just not how this works. And I want you to be successful. I want you to reach your goals in the next 6 months, which means we need to adjust the thing that isn't working. Now that we know what hasn't worked, I want you to get a little bit more specific with your goals, because this could be the reason that you didn't make much progress this past year. If you're only focused on like a big overarching outcome-based goal, like losing weight, it's hard to see progress because, well, it's motivating to say, I want to lose weight. You're not talking about any of the things you actually need to do in order to lose weight, which is why that goal starts to feel really overwhelming. You have no way to actually know if you're making progress towards that goal outside of seeing the scale go down. But how are you making the scale go down? We don't have any way to measure that really like week after week to make sure that you're actively making progress and doing the things you need to do in order to reach that overall goal. which is why it becomes really easy at the end of the year to say, oh my God, I made no progress towards that. It's like, of course you didn't. You didn't have a plan of action for how you were going to make that progress. So instead of only setting that big outcome-based goal, I want you to get specific about the actions you need in order to get to that big outcome goal. Break it down into daily or weekly actions you'll need to take in order to actually move the needle on your weight loss. So real life example, let's say we go back to that goal of, I want to lose weight. How are you actually going to do that? Do you need to hit your calories X number of days this month? Do you need to cook more meals at home? Should you stop going to Starbucks and drinking a 400 calorie coffee every morning? What are the daily and weekly actions you need to start focusing on in order to reach those goals? I want you to come up with 1 to 3 daily and or weekly actions you need to take to get closer to your goals and write those down. So now we've got what isn't working, we understand what is going to work, and we have actionable steps in order to reach this overall outcome goal. Just as important as we're doing this is to evaluate if these goals are even still important to you. Do you still care about this? At this point in the year, maybe unexpected things popped up these last 4 months and you're realizing like weight loss actually isn't as important to me as I thought it was. Or maybe as you head into summer, you're seeing this increase in social events and it's more important for you to have like full flexibility at those events and just really like enjoy this season of life without having to make any of those like this or that decisions that are, kind of required when it comes to losing weight. So really take the time. Like, is the reason you're not following through because this is no longer important to you and other things are more of a priority? That's okay. I want you to remember that it's okay if the goals you thought were important at the beginning of the year, you're realizing that they're not quite as important to you. And if that's the case, ditch them. Find new goals that are more in line with where you're at this point in the year. And as we head in to the next 3 quarters of the year, the most important thing I want you to remember is that nothing changes if nothing changes. We just spent some time coming up with some really great actionable ways that are going to allow you to really stick to your goals this year. But if something's been holding you back, it's not going to magically disappear overnight. The thing that I love about being a coach is that I get to chat with a lot of people on social media about their goals, their fitness journeys, like what's working well for them. And I can't tell you how many times I talk to people and 6 months later, we're chatting again and they're struggling with the same thing. They still have the same goals. They still want these things for themselves just as badly. But nothing changes if nothing changes. How many times will you stay stuck spinning your wheels, chasing the same goal month after month, never seeing results before you finally say enough is enough? Maybe it's time to realize that you'd reach your goals a heck of a lot quicker if you had a coach helping you work through this, because I can tell you what, my clients sure as heck aren't staying stuck for 6 months or even 3 months. They're taking action, and oftentimes they're telling me that their biggest regret is not starting coaching sooner. A lot of times I feel like we hold ourselves back because we're like, well, if I just had this one thing, if I just had more time, if I just had more motivation. But 3 months from now, 6 months from now, those things never actually came. And when are you going to finally accept that those things, your life is not going to get drastically different in 30 days? It's time to start learning how to make progress towards your goals, even when you can't be perfect, even when work is really busy, even when you have a ton of social events going on. Because if you just keep waiting, you're going to stay stuck in this cycle. We are 1/4 of the way through the year. This is the make or break time. It's time to make some changes if you're serious about reaching your goals in the next part of the year. It's time to get intentional about reaching your goals. It's time to get intentional about your future action, because you are capable of change. You are capable of reaching your goals, but it is going to take intention and hard work. please, please, please do not hesitate to reach out if you are struggling with reaching your goals this year. I'm here to help. But I want you to treat these next 8 months in a different way than you did the first 4 if you feel like you haven't made any progress towards your goals. If you get one thing from this podcast, I want that to be your biggest takeaway. If you haven't seen progress to date, then what you've been doing isn't working. And please do not repeat these same things over the next 8 months. I want you feeling like your life is in a completely different spot in 6 months because you implemented some of these changes, because you actually got intentional, because you realize that what you've done to date hasn't gotten you to those goals. And there's a reason for that. And the reason is that we need to try a new approach. So I'm so curious to hear what your goals have been for the new year, what your progress has been like, and more importantly, what is your plan of action to get closer to these goals over the next 8 months. So after you've worked through this podcast, please shoot me a DM to let me know how things are going, what your action plan is, so that I can really start to hold you accountable heading into the new year. So please don't hesitate. I am sweat.simple on Instagram. Shoot me a DM there so we can chat a little bit more about your goals, get you really set up to have the most successful last 3 quarters of the year to date. But in general, thank you guys so much for being here. I always appreciate you and having you in this community. I am always just a DM away, and I'll talk to you guys next week.